She stayed silent for years, through every insult, every hit, every threat. But one morning, everything changed. What happened next left everyone stunned. Watch the full story and see how Emma took back her life. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Spoken Pen for more gripping true stories. The house always felt different at night. Too quiet, too still, too watchful. It was the kind of quiet that didn't bring peace, only tension. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting for the next slam, the next shout, the next crack of anger breaking the air. Tonight was no different. Emma Clarke sat at the edge of the bed, knees pulled close, fingers trembling slightly against the cotton of her worn pajama bottoms. The clock on the nightstand glowed 2:46 a.m., its digital numbers a harsh red against the dark room. Her cheek burned. Not a hot burn, more of a deep, pulsing ache that throbbed with her heartbeat. The kind of pain that said this one would bruise. The kind that said take pictures. She blinked slowly, not crying. Crying stopped years ago. Quiet was safer. Quiet kept the house from exploding again. Down the hall, she could hear her husband, Nathan, snoring. Heavy, drunk, careless snores from the guest room he stumbled into after the argument. Argument. That was the polite word. The kind of word he would use if he ever needed to explain it. He'd say, "We had a disagreement." He'd say, "She pushed me." He'd say, "She knows how I get when she provokes me." He'd say anything except the truth. The truth was simple. He hit her. Again. It started over dinner. It always started over something stupid. Tonight it was the roast chicken being too dry. Last week it was the laundry not being folded the right way. Before that, it was the neighbor's dog barking and Nathan insisting she encouraged it somehow. Nathan didn't need reasons. He needed excuses. Emma stood slowly, pushing to her feet with a quiet exhale. The floorboards were old, but she knew exactly where not to step. Years of practice. She walked into the bathroom, flipping on the light with a soundless touch. The brightness stung her eyes at first, but then her reflection came into focus. Her cheek was already darkening, deep auburn spreading across her cheekbone, the imprint of his knuckles faint but present. The sight was almost clinical to her by now. She lifted her phone. Click, click, click. Different angles. No flash. She emailed them to herself, to an off-site backup drive, and to a folder labeled for later. She didn't know when later would be, but she was starting to feel like that time was coming. She stared at her reflection again. The small, quiet woman with soft brown hair and gentle eyes. A woman who used to paint sunsets on canvas and sing in the shower. A woman who used to have joy in her laugh. Now she barely had a voice. But tonight felt different. Not because of the slap. She'd lived through worse. It was the look on Nathan's face afterward. The smirk. The satisfaction. The calm shrug when he told her, "Maybe next time you'll try harder." Something inside Emma had shifted. Something subtle. Something dangerous. Not rage. Not fear. Clarity. She turned off the bathroom light and walked downstairs. The kitchen was dark, but she didn't flip a switch. The moonlight through the window was enough to see the faint outlines. The fridge, the pantry, the dining table she once loved. She opened the fridge and stared blankly for a moment. Then, without truly thinking about why, she reached for the carton of eggs. She pulled out the bacon. She pulled out the strawberries. Her hands moved on their own. She set the griddle on the stove and turned on the burner. She whisked pancake batter in a large mixing bowl, slow and steady. The aroma of vanilla filled the air as the batter smoothed out. She sliced strawberries into neat, even fans. She set blueberries in a small porcelain bowl. She cooked in silence, in the middle of the night, like a woman possessed by a purpose she hadn't spoken yet. Pancakes, bacon, toast with butter, fresh brewed coffee, orange juice in a glass pitcher. She didn't know when she started moving this way. She didn't know what she was planning. All she knew was this. Tomorrow morning, Nathan would come downstairs expecting an apology. He loved apology breakfasts. To him, food meant surrender. It meant she'd accepted blame. It meant the cycle could start again. But tonight, Emma cooked not with fear, but with intention. She didn't set the table yet. She didn't write anything down. She simply prepared. At 4:58 a.m., with everything laid out on the counter, she finally reached for her phone again. She typed a message to the only person in her life who truly knew the truth. Her older sister, Megan. It happened again. I think I'm finally ready. The reply came within seconds, like Megan had been awake all night too. Say the word. I'm coming. Emma took a deep breath, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Come now. And bring them. No names. No details. But Megan knew exactly what she meant. She had urged Emma for years to call the police, to document everything, to leave. But Emma never felt ready. Until now. Her plan was forming. Sharp. Clean. Cold. She wasn't leaving quietly. She wasn't escaping. She wasn't waiting for another bruise. She was ending it. She stepped outside onto the back porch and inhaled the early morning air, cold, crisp, untouched. The sky was beginning to pale at the edges with the very first hints of dawn. She wrapped her arms around herself and stood there for a long time, listening to the distant hum of the world waking up. Birds chirped. A truck drove by somewhere. A dog barked once. And then headlights turned into her driveway. 2 cars. One Megan's black SUV. One a marked police cruiser. Emma didn't flinch. Officer Daniels and Officer Kramer stepped out. Hands relaxed. Faces alert but gentle. They had been to the house before. Once for a welfare check. Once when a neighbor heard yelling. Each time Emma had downplayed it. Not tonight. Megan rushed to her first, pulling her into a fierce hug. Are you okay? Let me see. Emma leaned back, turning her cheek to the soft glow of the porch light. Megan's face hardened instantly. That bastard, she whispered. This is it. We're done. Emma nodded slowly. Yes, we are. The officers approached. Emma, Officer Daniels said softly, we got a call from your sister saying you wanted to report an incident. Emma straightened, her voice surprisingly steady. Ido. But I want you to see something first. She led them inside, into the quiet, dim kitchen. Officer Kramer flicked on the lights, revealing the full spread laid out on the counter. Warm pancakes stacked high, bacon glistening on a platter, fresh berries, toast, coffee, enough food for a celebration. Megan frowned. Emma, what is this? Emma's voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes after a storm. He always expects me to apologize. So I cooked the apology he wants. Officer Daniels looked uncertain. Mom, I'm not sure I understand. You will, Emma said softly. Just wait. The officers exchanged a look but didn't argue. They followed her to the dining room. Emma set the table herself, for plates, for cloth napkins folded neatly. Everything perfect. Everything deliberate. At 5:27 a.m., she finally nodded. I want you all seated at the table when he comes down. The officers didn't ask why. Megan didn't ask why. They simply sat, trusting her. Emma placed her phone on the kitchen counter and pressed record. She positioned it so the entire dining room was in view. Then she waited. It didn't take long. At 5:41 a.m., the heavy footsteps started. Slow. Dragging. The sound of someone hungover. Someone entitled. Someone who always assumed the world would be waiting with open arms each morning. Nathan's voice floated down the stairs, low and irritated. You better not still be sulking. Emma stood near the corner of the kitchen, hidden from view. Nathan stepped into the dining room, mid-yawn, his face twisted into its usual morning sneer. The moment he saw the table, he smirked. Well, he said, rubbing his hands together. Looks like someone finally learned how to say sorry. Then he saw who was sitting at the table, and the color drained from his face instantly. His smirk collapsed. His eyes went wide. His hand froze mid-gesture, because sitting at his spot was Officer Daniels. Beside him, Officer Kramer, and at the head of the table, his wife's sister, arms crossed, glaring at him like judgment itself. Emma stepped out from the corner. Good morning, Nathan, she said softly. Breakfast is served. For a moment, the house felt impossibly still. Even the hum of the refrigerator sounded muted, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what Nathan Clarke would do now that the morning he expected had become something entirely different. His eyes darted from one face to the next, trying, and failing, to piece together a version of reality that made sense to him. Emma, what is this? He stammered. Emma stood calmly near the dining room entrance, hands folded loosely in front of her. Her expression was unreadable, almost serene. Her cheek, still swollen and dark from the night before, was clear in the sunlight spilling through the windows. It's breakfast, she said softly. The kind you like. The kind you expect. Officer Daniels leaned back slightly in the chair, posture casual but alert. Officer Kramer remained still, eyes trained subtly on Nathan's hands. Megan sat with her back straight, her expression unmoved. Her presence filled the room like a protective wall. Nathan shook his head slowly, like someone waking from a dream he wasn't ready to leave. No. This is ridiculous. Why are the police here? His voice gained anger, rising in pitch the way it always did when he felt cornered. Emma, what did you do? Emma didn't flinch. I didn't do anything. You did. Those words hung between them like a blade. Nathan took one step toward her, instinctively, out of habit. The officers were on their feet instantly. Sir, Officer Kramer said sharply. I need you to stay exactly where you are. His eyes flicked to Kramer, then Daniels, then back to Emma. He laughed once, dry, humorless. So this is a setup? You called them here to embarrass me? Emma's voice was soft, but steady. I called them here to witness the truth. What truth? He snapped. Emma inhaled slowly, then spoke the words she had carried for far too long. You hit me last night. Nathan blinked, expression flickering. That's not Emma, come on. We had an argument. You blew it out of proportion like you always do. Officer Daniels reached for a small black notepad. Emma, would you like to give your statement now? Nathan scoffed loudly. Statement? You're going to take her seriously? Look at her. She's emotional. She makes things up when she's upset. Megan stood. Say one more word about her being emotional, she said coldly. And I swear to God. Emma touched her sister's arm gently. It's okay. Nathan spread his arms. Look, officers, I think my wife is overwhelmed. She does this. She gets dramatic. She probably tripped or bumped into something, and now she's telling stories. Emma picked up her phone from the counter. Is that so? She asked softly. She tapped the screen. Photos filled the display. Her cheek. Multiple angles. Time-stamped. Taken hours after he struck her. She held up the screen. Nathan's face twitched again. Fear, anger, indignation. All warring for dominance. That's nothing, he muttered. You bruise easily. You've always been sensitive. But Emma wasn't done. She tapped another file. Audio began to play. Nathan's voice, slurred with anger from the night before. If you weren't such a disappointment, maybe I wouldn't have to teach you lessons. Megan's jaw tightened. Officer Daniels shifted forward in the chair, eyes narrowing. Nathan's face drained. Emma, stop. But she tapped again. A second recording. His rage raw, unfiltered. You're lucky I didn't do worse. Officer Daniels exchanged a look with Officer Kramer. Nathan tried to recover. Those are taken out of context. I didn't mean. You meant every word, Emma said quietly. And deep down you know you did. There was no anger in her voice. No trembling. Just truth. Nathan's shoulders heaved with shallow breaths, as though the weight of the room was crushing his chest. You think this is abuse? He spat. You think this is grounds for bringing the police into my home? I provide for this house. I work every day. Megan slammed her hand on the table. And you hit her every time dinner isn't perfect. Don't pretend you're the victim. Nathan pointed at her. You stay out of this. She's my wife. No. Emma said gently. I'm not. The room went silent. Nathan blinked. What did you say? Emma stepped closer. Not timidly now, not shrinking. With each slow breath, she seemed to grow taller. I'm done being your wife, she said. I'm done being your excuse to be cruel. I'm done letting you break me. Nathan barked out a disbelieving laugh. You can't just decide that. You need my permission to leave. You can't. Officer Daniels cleared his throat. Actually, sir, he said slowly. That's not how the law works. Nathan's head snapped toward him. What? Officer Kramer spoke next, firm, official, unyielding. Based on the evidence presented, physical injury, recorded threats, prior documented disturbances, we are placing you under arrest for domestic battery. Nathan choked on the air. What? He shouted. No, this is insane. Emma, tell them you're confused. Tell them you're sorry. Emma didn't look confused. Or sorry. Her voice was quiet but final. I'm not sorry. Not anymore. Nathan lunged forward. Just an instinct, a flinch, a habit. The officers were on him immediately. Daniels grabbed his left arm. Kramer grabbed his right. You cannot do this. Nathan roared. This is my house. My wife. My life. Emma spoke one last time. Her voice a whisper that cut deeper than any shout. You gave all that up the first time you hit me. Handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Nathan fought them. He twisted. He tried to pull away. But the officers kept hold, guiding him toward the door. Megan reached out and squeezed Emma's hand. You're doing the right thing, she whispered. Emma nodded, though her eyes stung. Not from sadness, just release. As the officers pulled Nathan through the foyer, he threw one last desperate look over his shoulder. You'll regret this, he shouted. You hear me, Emma? You'll regret this. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The door shut behind him. Silence returned, but not the fearful kind. This silence felt like a beginning. A breath later, Megan exhaled shakily. Holy, Emma. She turned to her. You okay? Emma let out a slow, trembling breath. I think I will be. Officer Daniels returned inside briefly, paperwork in hand. We'll process him, he said gently. You'll need to come down to the station later today for the full report. We'll help you file a restraining order immediately. Emma nodded. Is there someone who can stay with you? Daniels asked. Megan will, Emma said softly. Megan tightened her arm around her sister's shoulders. You're not spending a single minute alone. The officers glanced at the breakfast still spread across the table. The pancakes, the berries, the untouched plates. Officer Kramer offered a soft, surprised smile. Ma'am, he said. I have to tell you, this is the calmest, most well-planned call we've ever responded to. Emma lowered her gaze. It wasn't calm. Not inside. But you were, Kramer replied. And that matters. After they left, Emma and Megan sat at the table in silence for a moment, staring at the food she had prepared in the quietest hours of the morning. Want to eat? Megan asked gently. Emma hesitated, then nodded. They ate together. Warm pancakes, fresh berries, strong coffee. For the first time in years, Emma tasted food without fear. When the plates were empty, Megan folded her napkin carefully and looked across the table. So, she said softly, what happens now? Emma exhaled slowly. Now, she said, we build a plan. A plan for what? Emma looked toward the front door, where Nathan had been taken away moments before. A plan, she said. So he never comes back. The quiet after Nathan's arrest felt strangely heavy. Not frightening, just unfamiliar. The house didn't creak the same way. The shadows didn't feel like threats. Even the ticking of the kitchen clock seemed slower, as if time itself had exhaled along with her. Emma stood alone in the kitchen while Megan stepped outside to take a call. The morning sun poured across the countertops, catching on the plates they had used for breakfast. The smell of pancakes lingered in the air. The same pancakes Nathan always demanded. The same pancakes that once symbolized apology and compliance. Now they represented something else entirely. The end of him. And the beginning of her. Megan returned a minute later, slipping her phone into her back pocket. She studied Emma's face carefully. "Mom's on her way," she said quietly. Emma blinked. "You already told her?" "She called me," Megan said. "She had a feeling. Said she woke up uneasy." Emma's chest tightened at that. Their mother had always been intuitive. She never liked Nathan, not from the moment she first met him. Too charming, she'd warned. Anyone who tries that hard to look perfect is hiding something. Emma ignored the warning then. She believed in second chances, in seeing the best in people, in fixing what was broken. Now she understood. Some people felt broken because they chose to be. Some people hurt others because it made them feel whole. "Do you want me to call a locksmith?" Megan asked gently. "Or wait until Mom gets here?" Emma hesitated. "Let's call now." Megan nodded and stepped aside to make the call. Emma moved mechanically, clearing the table and rinsing dishes. Her limbs felt too light, like her body wasn't used to moving without weight on her shoulders. She kept waiting for a slam upstairs. A heavy sigh behind her. Footsteps rushing down the hallway. But none came. The house was calm. A strange, trembling calm. The doorbell rang about 10 minutes later. Emma stiffened, but Megan was already at the door. "It's the locksmith," she called over her shoulder. Emma exhaled. The locksmith, an older man with silver hair and soft eyes, worked quietly. He didn't ask questions. Maybe he'd seen enough in his line of work not to need explanations. He replaced the front lock, the back lock, and the garage entrance. When he finished, he handed Emma 2 keys. "Only 2 copies," he said kindly. "If you want more, I can make them." Emma stared at the keys. Such small things. Yet they felt heavier than anything she had ever held. "Thank you," she whispered. After he left, Megan locked the door behind him and turned to her sister. "How are you holding up?" Emma leaned back against the counter. "I don't know," she admitted. "It feels surreal. Like he's still in the house somehow." "He's not," Megan said firmly. "And he's not coming back here today. The restraining order will start as soon as we file it." Emma nodded slowly. Megan glanced around the kitchen. "I should get rid of the liquor." Emma looked confused. "What?" Megan moved to the cabinet above the fridge and began pulling out the half-empty bottles Nathan kept. Whiskey, vodka, a bottle of cheap gin. She lined them up on the counter. "He always got worse when he drank," Megan said. "You don't need reminders of him here." Emma stared at the bottles, her pulse tightening. The labels felt like scars. Memories she didn't want. Megan carried them to the sink, opened each one, and poured the contents down the drain. The smell of alcohol filled the air, sharp, bitter, freeing. When the last bottle drained empty, Megan rinsed the sink. "Better," she said softly. Emma nodded. She didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until she finally exhaled. Just then, another knock sounded at the door, lighter, familiar. Megan opened it. It was their mother. She stepped inside without hesitation, pulling Emma into her arms. Her embrace was warm and steady, like anchoring against a storm. Emma didn't cry. She wanted to, but the tears still hadn't come. "Oh, sweetheart," her mother whispered. "I'm so proud of you." Emma swallowed hard. "I'm scared." "I know," her mother said. "But fear after freedom feels different than fear under control. One is healing. The other is harm." Those words sank deep. They spent the next hour together, talking quietly, sorting through paperwork, gathering anything Emma would need for the police statement later that day. Photos. Medical records. Old bruises she'd saved pictures of but never dared to show anyone. "You documented all of this?" her mother asked softly. Emma nodded. "I started collecting everything a year ago. I just wasn't ready until now." "Being ready doesn't mean you stopped loving him," her mother said gently. "It means you started loving yourself again." Emma felt those words in her bones. Near noon, her stomach growled softly. Megan laughed. Well, at least your appetite hasn't disappeared. Emma blinked. I don't remember the last time I ate lunch without rushing. That's because you were always waiting for him to text, Megan said. Always worried he'd accuse you of something if you didn't answer fast enough. Emma felt her chest grow heavy with memories. You're free now, Megan whispered. You don't have to jump for anyone. Emma pressed her hand against the cool countertop. I don't feel free yet. You will, her mother said. Healing isn't instant. It's a process. Today is step 1. Emma nodded. Then she glanced toward the living room and froze. The window was cracked. A long, jagged crack across the glass that she hadn't noticed before. Her pulse spiked. Megan followed her gaze. What happened there? Emma moved closer, heart thudding. She touched the crack lightly. It hadn't been there yesterday. He threw a book at it last week, she whispered. He was angry because the mail was late. Megan's jaw tightened. I didn't know about that. Emma gave a weak shrug. There's a lot I didn't tell you. Her mother stepped beside her, eyes soft. You don't have to tell us everything today. It will come out when you're ready. For now, let's take things one step at a time. Emma nodded. But something inside her felt different now that she had spoken the truth openly. To police, to Megan, to her mother. For years, the silence he forced on her had been her prison. Now speaking was her release. By mid-afternoon, Megan drove Emma to the police station to give her official statement. The officers were patient, kind, and steady. They asked questions gently, letting her speak at her own pace. Emma told them everything. The first shove. The first slap. The first apology that felt like a trap. The way he isolated her from friends. The way he criticized everything, from the meals she cooked to the clothes she wore. The way he alternated between affection and cruelty, keeping her off balance. When she finished, Officer Daniels nodded respectfully. You did the right thing coming forward. We'll support you through the entire process. Emma thanked him. Megan squeezed her hand as they left the station. How do you feel? Emma looked up at the sky, bright, clear blue, unreal in its simplicity. I feel exhausted, she admitted. But lighter. They drove home in silence, but it wasn't the heavy silence of the past. It felt like space to breathe. Back at the house, Emma stepped into the living room. The cracked window caught the light again. Without fully thinking, she grabbed a marker from the kitchen drawer and wrote a small note on the glass. You can't come back. It wasn't for Nathan. It was for herself. She stepped away, shoulders loosening. Later, while Megan made tea and their mother prepared dinner, Emma walked upstairs. She paused outside the guest room. The room where Nathan slept after nights he drank too much, or when he was too angry to be near her. The door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open. The room smelled faintly like stale cologne and whiskey. The bed was unmade. Clothes were strewn across the floor. The dresser drawer hung open. She stepped inside, heart thudding. This was where he slept after hitting her. This was where he hid from responsibility. This was where she stood outside the door countless nights, wondering if it was safe to approach him the next morning. She walked to the dresser and opened the top drawer. Belts. Socks. Loose change. She closed it. She opened the next one. Shirts. More socks. A watch he never wore. She paused. Then she opened the bottom drawer. Her breath caught. Inside were items she hadn't seen in years. Her sketchbook, a small leather-bound notebook she thought she'd lost. A paintbrush with dried blue paint at the tip. A silver necklace her grandmother had given her long before she met Nathan. She lifted the sketchbook with trembling fingers. She hadn't drawn in years. Nathan always complained that her art took too much time, made too much mess, gave her silly fantasies about being creative. He wanted her to be practical, predictable, quiet. The sketchbook felt like a piece of her old self. The version she buried to survive. She opened it slowly. Page 1. A watercolor test. Page 2. A small sketch of a house by a lake. Page 3. A pencil drawing of a woman's silhouette, confident and bright. Everything Emma wasn't anymore. Her hands shook. She didn't cry, but something inside her cracked open softly. Megan's voice floated up the stairs. Emma? Everything okay? Emma wiped the corner of her eye. Yeah. Just found something. She carried the sketchbook downstairs. Her mother looked up from the stove and smiled softly when she saw it. You used to draw every day, her mother said warmly. You were gifted. Emma sat at the kitchen table, tracing the edges of the notebook. I don't know if I remember how anymore. You will, Megan said gently. It's like riding a bike. Once you're away from him long enough, the parts of you he tried to erase will come back. Emma took a slow breath. Maybe. After dinner, her mother insisted on staying the night. Megan did too. Emma didn't argue. They watched an old movie on TV, something light, something gentle, until her eyelids grew heavy. She went to bed in her own room for the first time in months without tension sitting on her ribcage. But lying there in the dim light, staring at the ceiling, she realized something startling. She wasn't afraid. Not of the door opening suddenly. Not of footsteps pounding down the hallway. Not of being woken by shouting. She was alone. But for the first time in a long time, she felt safe. Hours later, she drifted to sleep, deep, dreamless, unbroken. Morning came softly. Birds. Sunlight. Her mother humming downstairs. Megan laughing quietly at something on her phone. Emma sat up slowly, stretching her stiff shoulders. She walked to the bathroom and studied her reflection again. Her cheek was still bruised, but less swollen. Less raw. Less defining. She touched it lightly. It will heal, she whispered. She went downstairs and found Megan pouring coffee. Morning, Megan said warmly. First peaceful night in a while, huh? Emma nodded, a bit shy. Yeah. Her mother joined them at the table. We'll go to the courthouse today, she said. We'll file the restraining order. We'll start the paperwork for everything you need. Emma swallowed. I still can't believe it's real. It's real, Megan said. And you're not going back. Emma sipped her coffee. Something deep inside her, something long dormant, stirred. A tiny spark. A small flame. Hope. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel it. The courthouse smelled faintly of old paper, polished wood, and the nervous energy of people in fragile situations. Emma walked beside Megan and their mother, each step steady but slow, as though her mind and body were relearning how to move through the world without the constant weight of Nathan's presence. The clerk behind the counter was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a calm voice that didn't rush or pressure. She pushed forms toward Emma, explaining each section with patience. Details about the assault, the photographs, the recordings, the timeline of violence that stretched far longer than Emma wanted to admit. Megan sat close, helping her fill out the paperwork. Their mother rested a hand on Emma's back, grounding her whenever her breath turned shallow. When the clerk asked her the most difficult question, have there been prior incidents? Emma felt the air around her tighten. She stared at the line on the page. Yes, she whispered. How many? Emma looked down at her hands. Too many. Her voice cracked. But for the first time, she didn't apologize for it. After the forms were submitted, they waited in a quiet hallway with rows of chairs. Other women waited there too, some alone, some with friends, all with shadows behind their eyes. They met each other's gazes in silent acknowledgement. Shared survival. Shared fear. Shared courage. A bailiff approached after a few minutes. Emma Clarke. Emma stood. The judge will see you now. She followed him into a small courtroom. The judge, a woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled into a tight bun, looked up over her glasses. Her gaze was sharp, not cold, like she saw more than Emma said. Ms. Clarke, the judge said, I've reviewed your filings. Before I issue the protective order, is there anything else you'd like to add? Emma swallowed. Her throat was tight, but her voice remained steady. I want to be safe. And I don't want him to hurt me ever again. The judge nodded. Based on your evidence, I'm granting a temporary restraining order effective immediately. He is not allowed within 500 feet of you or your home. No direct or indirect contact. Violations will result in immediate arrest. Emma felt something inside her loosen, like a rope that had been strangling her suddenly began to unwind. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're welcome," the judge said. "And Ms. Clarke? You showed strength today. Don't forget that." Emma didn't answer, but the words stayed with her long after she left the courtroom. Outside, Megan squeezed her hand. "That's step one," she said. "You did it." Emma nodded, but her mind had already jumped to everything that came next. The divorce, the police follow-up, the emotional unraveling she hadn't even started yet. When they returned home, the house greeted them with the same soft quiet as before. But this time, Emma didn't feel the phantom weight of Nathan hiding in the corners. The space felt like it was hers again. Still, when she stepped into the living room and saw the cracked window, her stomach fluttered with a memory so sharp she had to steady herself. Megan noticed immediately. "Do you want me to call someone to fix that?" Emma stared at the crack. "Not yet," she said softly. "I'm not done with it." That afternoon, Emma walked through the house room by room, not searching for anything specific, just reclaiming space. She opened curtains Nathan always insisted stay closed. She lit a candle he used to complain was too floral. She pulled the throw blanket she loved out from the hall closet where Nathan had stuffed it last year. Every small act felt rebellious, therapeutic, necessary. In the bedroom, she stripped the sheets from the bed she had shared with him. She washed the pillowcases twice, watching the foam swirl like she was cleaning years' worth of tension from the fabric. She opened the windows so the fresh air could wash through everything. When she remade the bed, it felt symbolic. A reset. She stood back, breathing deeply, soaking in the moment. She didn't expect the tears that followed. They came suddenly without warning, hot and heavy, blurring her vision. Her knees buckled, and she sat hard on the edge of the bed, pressing her hands to her face as sobs shook through her. Megan rushed in a moment later. "Emma, what happened?" I don't know," Emma choked, wiping her cheeks. "I'm not even sad. It feels like everything is hitting me at once." Megan wrapped her arms around her, holding her tightly. "That's normal. You've been holding everything in for years. You're finally letting go." Emma pressed her face into her sister's shoulder. "Why didn't I leave sooner?" "Because you weren't ready," Megan said gently. "And now you are. That's what matters." Emma cried until the tears ran dry. And then, as if the emotional storm had cleansed something inside her, she felt clearer, lighter. For the first time in a long time, she felt human again. Later that evening, Officer Daniels called to update her. "Nathan is being processed," he explained. "He'll be held until his bail hearing. You won't see him today." Emma nodded, gripping the phone. "Thank you." "Stay vigilant," he added. "And call us immediately if anything happens." "I will." After she hung up, her mother insisted on making dinner. Something simple. Something warm. Something comforting. The three women sat together at the dining table. The same table where Nathan used to demand perfection, where he used to criticize everything she cooked, where she used to shrink under his gaze. Tonight, she laughed for the first time in months. It was a small laugh. Fragile, but real. Her mother placed a hand over hers. "You're coming back," she whispered. Emma nodded. "I think I am." That night, Megan and her mother insisted she sleep in the guest room instead of the master bedroom. "I just washed the sheets," Emma protested. "That's exactly why," Megan said, fluffing the pillows. "It smells like peace in here." Emma smiled at that. She lay down, feeling the comfort of a clean space untouched by anger, untouched by fear. She drifted off more easily than she expected. But sometime around 3 a.m., she jolted awake. A noise sharp sudden. She sat upright, heart hammering. Another noise. A soft tapping. Someone was at the front door. Emma froze. Megan appeared in the doorway instantly. "You heard that too?" Emma nodded, pulse racing. Their mother woke next, stepping into the hallway. Stay here, Megan whispered, grabbing a heavy flashlight from the dresser. But Emma was already moving down the stairs, her breath fast and shallow. She reached the bottom step and peered through the peephole. Her stomach dropped. A plastic grocery bag sat on the porch. Just a bag. But behind it, shadows moved near the bushes. Low. Hushed. Emma backed away. Someone's out there. Megan grabbed her phone. I'm calling the police. Within 10 minutes, a patrol car pulled up. Lights off, approach silent. Officer Kramer stepped out, scanning the yard with a flashlight. He checked the bag first. Inside were 2 items. A wilted rose. And a crumpled note. Emma's skin crawled. The note was scrawled in rough handwriting. You think you're safe now? You won't be safe forever. Kramer's expression darkened. Stay inside, he said firmly. Lock all doors. We'll sweep the area. 2 more patrol cars arrived. Officers fanned out across the lawn, searching bushes, checking the street, canvassing neighbors. But whoever left the note had already slipped away. Emma's stomach twisted with dread as she stared at the message. Megan squeezed her shoulder. He's in custody. He couldn't have come here. Emma nodded shakily. Then who left this? Her mother's face turned grim. Someone who thinks scaring women makes them powerful. Officer Kramer returned after 20 minutes. We didn't find anyone, he said. But we'll increase patrols tonight. And we'll process the note for prints. Emma swallowed hard. Thank you. Before leaving, Kramer paused. You did the right thing filing today, he said. This kind of intimidation usually happens right after an abuser loses control. Emma's blood ran cold. Intimidation. Kramer nodded. Trying to rattle you. But don't let this shake you. You're doing everything right. When he left, Emma held the door handle for a long moment before locking it again. She pressed her forehead against the cool wood. She had taken control. She had broken the cycle. But the aftershock, the backlash, was only beginning. She returned upstairs and sat on her bed, knees pulled close, her body trembling. Her mother joined her, wrapping her in a blanket. Sweetheart, she whispered. Fear doesn't mean failure. It means you're still healing. But Emma wasn't thinking about healing. She was thinking about the shadow in the bushes. The rose. The note. Whoever left it. And what they wanted. The note stayed with Emma long after the patrol cars left, and the porch lights dimmed. Even after Megan triple-checked every lock, even after her mother insisted they all sleep in the guest room together, sleep didn't come easily. Emma lay awake listening for footsteps, for whispers outside the window, for the sound of someone trying to break in. But none came. Still, when dawn finally crept through the curtains, her body felt exhausted, like she hadn't slept at all. Megan stirred beside her. You awake? Emma nodded. Barely. Her mother was already sitting up, alert and watchful in a way that told Emma she hadn't slept either. Let's make coffee, her mother said softly. A tired mind panics. A steady one plans. Emma followed them downstairs, her steps slow and heavy. The morning light filled the kitchen with a warm glow. A stark contrast to the cold fear that had crawled under her skin last night. They sat at the table, hands wrapped around steaming mugs. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Megan broke the silence. We need to figure out who left that note. Emma's stomach tightened. I don't want to assume anything. You don't have to assume, Megan replied. You just have to think. Who would do that? Emma shook her head. It wasn't Nathan. He's still in custody. Exactly, Megan said. But maybe he told someone. Her mother frowned. You think he asked a friend to scare her? It wouldn't be the first time an abuser tried that, Megan said. People like him always have someone who believes their lies. Emma swallowed. Hard. There were only a few people Nathan kept close. Co-workers he drank with, neighbors he pretended to be friends with, the occasional old friend who still called him loyal, because Nathan had never shown them the side Emma knew too well. It doesn't matter who did it, her mother said firmly. What matters is staying safe and letting the police handle it. Emma nodded. But the knot in her stomach didn't loosen. Around mid-morning, Officer Daniels called. Emma, I wanted to update you on the note situation. She held her breath. Did you find anything? We lifted partial prints from the paper bag. We're running them now. But I want you to prepare yourself. The prints may not belong to someone in the system. Emma leaned against the counter. I understand. We're also pulling traffic camera footage from your street, Daniels continued. It might help us identify who dropped the bag. Thank you, Emma whispered. He paused before speaking again. And Emma, until we sort this out, don't go anywhere alone. I won't. After the call ended, Emma set her phone on the counter, breathing slowly. Her mother stepped beside her. You're safe. Remember that. Emma wanted to believe it. She really did. That afternoon, Megan went out briefly to pick up groceries, leaving Emma with their mother. The quiet wasn't the suffocating kind. It was protective, comforting. But when the doorbell rang suddenly, both women froze. Emma's heart pounded. Who is that? Her mother motioned for her to stay back and walked to the door slowly, peering through the peephole. She sighed in relief. It's Diane. Emma blinked. Diane. The divorce lawyer? Her mother reminded. Emma exhaled sharply. Right. Diane stepped inside. A tall woman in her 50s with sharp eyes, gray streaks in her hair, and an air of controlled confidence. Emma, she said warmly but firmly. I came as soon as Megan called and told me what happened. I'm sorry, Emma said automatically. Don't apologize, Diane replied. You've been through hell. My job is to get you out of it permanently. She sat with them at the dining table, laying out folders and paperwork. We're going to file for an emergency divorce petition, she said. Given the arrest, the evidence, and last night's incident, the court will likely move quickly. Emma swallowed. How long does that take? Normally months, Diane said. But with domestic violence cases, the timeline can be accelerated. She flipped through documents, highlighting sections with a bright yellow pen. I'll need statements from you and Megan. Photos. The audio clips. Anything you have. Emma nodded weakly. I saved everything. Good, Diane said. Because the more we document, the stronger your case. Emma hesitated. Will he fight it? Diane sat back, considering. Almost certainly. Men like Nathan don't like losing control. Emma's stomach twisted. But Diane continued, he won't win. Not this time. You're not alone, Emma. She said it with such certainty that Emma felt an unexpected wave of relief wash over her. When Megan returned home, she joined them at the table, setting grocery bags down beside her. Diane reviewed the restraining order with her, then handed Emma a pen. Sign here. This starts the divorce process. Emma stared at the line for a moment. A single line between past and future. Her hand trembled slightly as she signed her name. It was the cleanest signature she'd ever written. Diane smiled. You just began the rest of your life. Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek, though she wasn't sure if it was sadness or relief. Maybe both. The next day brought more updates than Emma expected. First came Officer Daniels. Emma, we identified the fingerprints, he said. But they weren't Nathan's. Emma felt her heart pound. Then whose were they? A man named Ryan Greeley, Daniels replied. He has a minor record. Trespassing, disorderly conduct. Lives 2 neighborhoods over. Emma frowned. I don't know him. I figured, Daniels said. But this is where it gets complicated. Why? Daniels sighed. Greeley works with Nathan. They're on the same construction crew. Emma's blood ran cold. So Nathan told him to come here? We're not sure yet. But given the timing, it's likely. Emma felt her heartbeat in her throat. We're issuing a warrant to bring him in for questioning, Daniels said. And we're increasing patrols around your home until further notice. Emma closed her eyes. Thank you. After the call, she sat at the dining table, staring at her hands. He asked someone to scare me, she whispered. Megan sat across from her, jaw tight. Of course he did. He can't get to you himself, so he uses someone else. Her mother put a hand on Emma's shoulder. That means he's desperate. And when people like him are desperate, they make mistakes. Emma nodded slowly, trying to believe it. But fear still lingered beneath her ribs. Later that afternoon, Megan noticed Emma staring blankly at the living room window, the cracked glass spiderwebbing sunlight across the floor. You keep looking at it, Megan said. Why? Emma walked toward it. It's like a symbol, she said quietly, of everything I ignored, everything I allowed myself to live with. Megan frowned gently. Emma, you didn't allow anything. You survived. Emma brushed her fingers across the crack. He always told me that no one would believe me, she whispered. That if I ever tried to leave, it would be my word against his. And he had everyone fooled. Not anymore, Megan said softly. Emma turned. What if he gets out? What if he comes back? Megan held her gaze. You have a restraining order. The police are watching. The court is on your side. He can't touch you now. But he tried, Emma said. Last night. Megan stepped closer. And he failed. Emma swallowed. Her mother entered the room then. Girls, come to the kitchen. The officer who took the note is here again. Emma's stomach tightened. Why? All he said was it's important. Officer Kramer stood in the kitchen when they arrived. He removed his hat and looked at Emma with unusual seriousness. Emma, he said gently, we just searched Greeley's house. Emma felt her throat tighten again. What did you find? Officer Kramer hesitated. He had photos, he said slowly. Photos of your house. Taken from different angles. Some from last week. Some from last night. Emma's knees nearly buckled. Megan caught her arm. Kramer continued, voice steady. He also had notes. Threats. Drafts of messages. Emma's heart thudded painfully. Did he admit to anything? He claimed Nathan asked him to deliver a message. But he didn't elaborate. Emma exhaled shakily, heat prickling the back of her eyes. He was watching me. Kramer nodded. Yes. But he's in custody now. And he won't be getting out anytime soon. Emma pressed her hand against her stomach, trying to calm the nauseating twist inside. But there's something else, Kramer added softly. Emma's breath caught. What? We found a burner phone, he said. With messages from Nathan. Emma froze. He continued. Texts instructing Greeley to intimidate you. To make her afraid enough to come back. Emma's skin crawled. Her mother gasped. Megan swore under her breath. Emma, Kramer said gently. This strengthens your case enormously. Nathan may face additional charges for conspiracy and coercion. Emma stared at him, unsure if she wanted to cry or scream. She whispered. He really tried to scare me back. He tried to maintain control, Kramer corrected softly. But he failed. And now we'll make sure he faces consequences. Emma nodded, though her heart still pounded wildly. Kramer placed a card on the counter. I'll be in touch with updates. But know this, you're protected. And we won't let anything happen to you. After he left, Emma sank into a chair. Her mother knelt beside her. Sweetheart, listen to me. You're not powerless. He's losing control, and you're gaining it. Emma looked down at her hands. Why does it feel like I'm still tied to him? She whispered. Because trauma doesn't disappear the moment the abuser leaves, Megan said gently. It clings. But so does strength. And yours is growing every minute. Emma took a long, shaky breath. She wanted to believe that. She needed to believe that. But she also knew the truth. Nathan wasn't finished. Not yet. And the darkness he sent to her doorstep was only the beginning. The house was quiet again after Officer Kramer left, but this quiet felt different from all the others before it. This one wasn't peaceful. It was tense. Loaded. A silence that hummed with the echo of everything he said. Photos of her house. Threats. A burner phone. Nathan behind it all. Emma sat at the kitchen table long after her mother and Megan had moved to the living room. Her hands sat in her lap, tightly clasped, like she could physically hold herself together if she squeezed hard enough. She could feel her pulse pounding in her wrist, in her neck, in her bruised cheek. Megan peeked around the doorway. You okay?" Emma didn't look up. "I don't know." Megan walked over and pulled out the chair next to her. "Say it. Whatever it is." Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. "I keep thinking about the photos. The ones he took from outside." Her stomach turned. What if he saw me through the window? What if he watched me when I didn't know I was being watched? Megan reached for her hand. "He didn't get inside. He didn't touch you. That matters." Emma shook her head. "But he wanted to. He tried." "And he failed," Megan repeated. "That matters too." Emma inhaled shakily. "Why does it feel like he's still here? Hiding somewhere?" "Because trauma teaches you to expect danger," Megan said softly. "But we're going to unlearn that. Slowly." Emma closed her eyes. She wanted to believe her. She needed to. Their mother joined them, carrying a warm cup of chamomile tea. "Drink," she said, placing it in front of Emma. "Your nerves are wrapped so tight they could snap." Emma wrapped her hands around the warm mug. It steadied her slightly. Her mother brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "We're not leaving tonight. Or tomorrow. Or any time soon. We'll stay as long as you need." Emma nodded gratefully. Her mother added gently, "And maybe it's time to accept something important. You don't have to be strong alone." Emma let out a slow exhale. "I've been alone for so long, I don't know how to let anyone else help." Megan leaned back, softening her voice. "Then we'll start small. Let us sit with you. Let us stay. Let us protect you the way you protected yourself for years." Emma stared at them both. She whispered, "Okay." Later that afternoon, Megan suggested something unexpected. "Emma, maybe it's time to take back your art." Emma blinked. "My what?" "You're sketching. You're painting," Megan said. "You were always happiest when you were creating. You stopped because he told you it was a waste of time." Emma felt a familiar ache, deep hidden, neglected. "I haven't picked up a brush in years." "Exactly," Megan said softly. "And maybe it's time." Her mother nodded. "Art helps you express things words can't." Emma hesitated. "I don't even know where my supplies are." "Then we'll find them," Megan said. They spent the next hour searching the house. The studio Emma once used had long ago become a storage room filled with boxes, empty containers, Nathan's old tools, and broken furniture he promised to fix but never did. Dust gathered in corners. Shelves sagged. The air felt stale. But behind the clutter, they found her things. A tackle box full of acrylic paints. A wooden case of brushes. A stack of old canvases. A large painter's apron splattered with old colors. Emma lifted the apron slowly, her fingers running over the dried paint. She remembered each stain, where she created it, what she was painting at the time, how she felt. "I forgot how much I loved this," she whispered. "Then bring it back," Megan said. "Even if it's just one line on one canvas." Emma set the apron aside and reached for the smallest canvas. She found a pencil and sat at the desk that hadn't been used in years. Her hand hovered over the canvas. She hesitated. And then softly, slowly, she drew the first line. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even straight. But it was hers. And it was a start. Her mother watched from the doorway, eyes soft. "There she is," she whispered. "The Emma we haven't seen in years." Emma kept sketching. The lines came easier. More natural. More fluid. Shapes formed. A silhouette of a woman. A shadow behind her. Light breaking through. Her past. Her fear. Her freedom. She didn't draw Nathan. She didn't need to. She drew herself. Hours passed without Emma noticing. She didn't feel the minutes slipping by. She didn't feel fear rising in her chest. For the first time in weeks, maybe even years, her mind rested. When she finally stepped back from the canvas, Megan gasped. "Emma, that's incredible." Emma stared at it too. It was unfinished, messy, unpolished, but it felt alive. "It's just a sketch," she whispered, but her voice held something it hadn't held in a long time: pride. Her mother kissed the top of her head. "This is healing," she said softly. "This is you reclaiming yourself." Emma wasn't sure she believed in healing yet, but she believed in possibility. And that was enough. That evening, Diane called with more updates. "Emma," she said, "Nathan's bail hearing is tomorrow morning. I'll be there with you." Emma's heart tightened. "Will he be released?" she whispered. "Unlikely," Diane said. "Given the evidence, and the threats he orchestrated, it's not in his favor. But," she added gently, "you need to be prepared emotionally. You may see him again." Emma's breath hitched. "I don't know if I can handle that." "You can," Diane said firmly. "Because you won't be standing in that room alone. I'll be beside you. Megan will be beside you. The judge will be beside justice." Emma felt something shift inside her, a steadying, grounding sensation. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll be there." After she hung up, she stared at her reflection in the dark screen of her phone. Her face still bore the bruise. Her eyes still carried fear. But beneath that, beneath everything, something stronger was growing. Resolve. Later that night, after her mother and Megan fell asleep, Emma walked quietly to the living room. She flicked on the small bench light near the cracked window. She had avoided looking at the crack all day, but now she stood in front of it deliberately. The glass was spiderwebbed, fractured but still holding, broken but not shattered. A lot like her. She picked up a marker again. Yesterday she wrote, "You can't come back." Tonight she wrote underneath it, "I won't go back." She stared at the words, her breath steady. Then, almost without thinking, she pulled out her phone and opened her messages. There was a contact she hadn't spoken to in years. Laura, crisis counselor. A woman she had met at a community center long before Nathan turned violent. Someone who once told her, "Call when you're ready." Emma typed, "Can we talk? I think I'm finally ready." The response came within minutes. "Absolutely. I'm here. When do you want to meet?" Emma stared at the words. She typed, "Tomorrow. After the hearing." She hit send before she could question herself again. When she returned to the guest room, she lay awake for a long time. She thought about the hearing, about the sketch she made, about the note left on her porch, about Ryan Greeley in custody, about Nathan's texts instructing him to frighten her back into submission. But underneath the fear, something else burned. Anger. Not the destructive, chaotic kind. The purposeful kind. She whispered into the darkness, "You don't own me anymore." And for the first time she believed it. Morning came too early. Emma dressed slowly, choosing simple jeans and a long-sleeved sweater that hid the bruise on her cheek. Megan braided her hair for her. "You look strong," Megan said. "I don't feel strong." "That's okay," Megan replied. "Feeling strong isn't a requirement. Showing up is." Their mother hugged Emma tightly before they left. "I'll be here when you get back." Outside, the air was crisp and cool. The town was still waking up, the sky soft and blue, traffic light, the world deceptively calm. Diane waited for them on the courthouse steps. She greeted Emma with a nod and a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're ready." Emma took a breath. "Let's get this over with." They walked together into the courthouse. A security guard checked them in. A clerk directed them to courtroom 3. Emma's breath caught when she saw the sign on the door. Bail hearing Nathan Clarke. Her chest tightened. Her palms grew damp. Megan squeezed her hand. "I'm right here." Diane led the way inside. The courtroom was small, rows of benches, a judge's bench at the front, and tables for each side. Emma froze. Nathan was already there. He sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed, ankles shackled. His hair was messy. His face was pale. His arrogance was noticeably absent. But his eyes, sharp, dark, burning, locked onto Emma instantly. A chill crawled up her spine. He smirked. A slow, cold smirk that made her blood run cold. Megan whispered sharply, "Don't look at him." But Emma couldn't look away. Nathan mouthed two silent words. "You'll pay." Her heartbeat thundered. Diane leaned close. "Ignore him. The judge will see everything she needs to see." Emma swallowed hard as the judge entered. Court is now in session. Nathan's smirk faded as the charges were read aloud. Domestic battery, coercion, conspiracy, violation of protection order, intimidation. He shifted uncomfortably. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His public defender stood and tried to speak on his behalf. But the judge held up a hand. "Mr. Clarke has demonstrated continued disregard for the law and for the safety of the victim. Bail is denied." Emma exhaled. Denied. 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 She felt her legs nearly buckle, but Megan held her steady. Nathan slammed his fists on the table. "You can't do this. She's lying. I didn't hurt her." The judge glared. "One more outburst, Mr. Clarke, and you'll be removed." He fell silent, chest heaving, eyes full of rage. Emma realized then. He wasn't in control anymore. He wasn't the one setting the rules. He wasn't the one she had to fear. And he knew it. As they left the courthouse, Emma paused on the steps, staring at the bright sky above. Megan touched her shoulder. "How do you feel?" Emma inhaled deeply. "Like I can breathe again." Diane smiled softly. "Good. Now let's take the next step." Emma nodded. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fears, new healing. But today she won. And Nathan couldn't take that from her. The courthouse felt like a sanctuary when Emma walked out. But the moment she stepped into the parking lot, the world felt bigger, louder, sharper. She breathed in the crisp air, feeling something she had not felt in years, relief, even if fragile. Megan hooked an arm around her shoulders. "You did it. He's not coming out." Emma nodded, her eyes stinging with quiet emotion. "Thank you." Diane stood a few feet away, flipping through documents as she spoke. "Next step is preparing your full divorce petition. His charges already strengthen your case, but we're going to build an unshakable wall around you." Emma looked at her gratefully. "I appreciate everything you're doing." Diane offered a warm but firm smile. "Get used to it. I'm not going anywhere. Neither is justice." Emma absorbed her words like sunlight after a storm. When they returned home, her mother was waiting at the door. Before Emma could speak, she was wrapped in tight arms. "What happened?" her mother asked, her voice trembling with worry. "Bail denied," Emma said softly. Her mother released a shaky breath and held her face gently. "Good. Good. That gives us time to help you recover." Megan led Emma into the living room where sunlight spilled across the carpet in gentle patterns. Her sketch from the previous day was still propped against the wall. Emma paused to stare at it. The woman she had drawn, bold, shadowed, illuminated, felt like a mirror she hadn't expected to see. A version of herself that was emerging, piece by piece. "You should finish that," Megan said quietly. "I will," Emma replied. "Just not yet." She wasn't ready, but she would be. That afternoon, the house settled into a rhythm. Megan made tea. Emma's mother cleaned the kitchen, though Emma insisted she didn't need to. Emma walked through the house, touching surfaces she once avoided, stepping into rooms she once feared. Healing didn't happen in a straight line, but today felt like a step forward. She was in the hallway rearranging picture frames when someone knocked on the door. Emma froze. Megan looked up sharply. "Stay there." She moved to the peephole, then relaxed. "It's Officer Daniels." Emma opened the door slowly. Daniels stood with a folder in his arms and a look of patient seriousness on his face. "I have updates." Emma stepped aside to let him in. "Good ones?" Megan asked cautiously. Daniels nodded. "Mostly." Emma tensed. "Mostly." He set the folder on the table and opened it. "We interrogated Ryan Greeley." Emma felt her pulse quicken. Daniels continued. "He confessed that Nathan told him to intimidate you." He admitted he was the one who left the note and the rose. He also confessed to taking the photos outside your house. Emma shuddered. What did Nathan promise him? Money, Daniels said. And loyalty. He made air quotes. Nathan told him you were out of control and needed to be scared straight. Megan muttered a curse under her breath. Their mother shook her head in disgust. Emma leaned against the table. He really thought he could scare me back. Daniels nodded. He underestimated you. There was a pause. Emma asked quietly, what's the part that isn't good? Daniels hesitated. Greeley was offered a plea deal in exchange for testifying fully against Nathan. Emma frowned. Isn't that good? It is, Daniels said. But it means he may get a lighter sentence. Emma swallowed. I just don't want him anywhere near me. He won't be, Daniels assured. The plea deal includes a protection clause. He's not allowed within 1,000 feet of you. Emma nodded slowly. One more thing, Daniels said, handing her a document. This is a victim's advocate contact. They can help with counseling, housing assistance if needed, and emotional support through the trial. Emma took it. Thank you. Daniels gave her a steady look. You're doing everything right. And you're safer than you think. When he left, Emma found herself shaking slightly. Megan touched her arm. You okay? Emma nodded. Yeah. Just processing. Their mother said softly. Fear means your body is remembering danger. Strength means you're choosing to move forward anyway. Emma breathed deeply. She liked that. Later that evening, Emma sat alone in the studio room with her sketch. She traced the outline of the drawing, remembering the way her hand had moved so freely for the first time in years. She picked up a pencil again. Lines formed. Curves deepened. Shadows sharpened. The woman in the sketch grew clearer, more defined, more alive. Emma added a detail she hadn't noticed before. The woman's fist clenched at her side. Not in anger. In determination. The sketch was her story. In charcoal. In silence. In reclaiming. As she set the pencil down, Megan appeared at the door, leaning against the frame. That's incredible, Megan said softly. You've always had this talent. Emma smiled faintly. Nathan used to say it was a waste of time. Megan scoffed. Yeah, well, Nathan's opinion is trash. Emma let out a single soft laugh. It felt good. Light. Why did you stop drawing? Megan asked. Emma looked down. Because every time I picked up a pencil, he'd find something wrong with it. He'd say it wasn't real work. That I was being childish. Megan stepped forward. He was threatened by your talent. That's why he destroyed it. Emma blinked. For years he told me I wasn't good enough, Emma said quietly. He made me believe it. Megan shook her head. He didn't make you believe anything. He only made you doubt. But you? You're finally seeing what the rest of us saw all along. Emma felt warmth spread in her chest, something close to pride. That night, Emma had trouble sleeping. Not from fear, but from a restless kind of anticipation. She drifted in and out of shallow dreams, her mind replaying the hearing, the sketch, the note, the flash of Nathan's glare. Around 2 a.m., she got up and walked quietly to the living room. She didn't want to wake her mother or Megan. She curled up on the couch and stared at the cracked window. That crack had become symbolic. She wasn't planning to fix it yet. It reminded her of where she had been, and of the strength she would build to move forward. She wrapped a blanket around herself and closed her eyes. But a noise pulled her back. A soft, subtle scrape outside. Her breath stilled. She listened again. Silence. Then, another scrape. Her heart raced. She stood slowly, gripping the blanket like a shield, and moved toward the window. She couldn't see anything outside, just the faint outline of the yard. Emma. She jumped. It was her mother, standing in the doorway, worry lining her face. What's wrong? Her mother asked. I heard something outside, Emma whispered. They stood together listening. Almost a minute passed. Nothing. Her mother squeezed her shoulder. It could have been an animal. Maybe, Emma whispered, though she wasn't convinced. She waited another 30 seconds. Silence. Her mother guided her back to the couch. Let's sit for a minute. Emma leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Her mother stroked her arm gently. Your mind is on high alert. That's normal. Emma swallowed hard. I feel like I'm always listening. You've had years of training, her mother said. Your nervous system needs time to learn that danger is gone. For the first time, Emma realized this wasn't just emotional healing, it was physical. Her body had been taught to anticipate violence, to listen for footsteps, to brace for impact, to survive silence. But now, the silence wasn't a warning. It was space to breathe. She didn't fully relax yet, but she was learning. By morning, Emma felt clearer. She walked into the kitchen, where Megan was making breakfast. Sleep okay? Megan asked. Emma shrugged. Sort of. Megan poured coffee and handed her a mug. Want to talk about it? Emma didn't answer right away. She sipped her coffee slowly. Finally, she said. I want to meet with Laura after all. Megan smiled. The counselor? That's a great idea. Emma nodded, though a flicker of nerves surfaced. I don't know what I'll say. You'll say whatever you're ready to say, Megan replied. Nothing more, nothing less. Emma found strength in that. Okay. Laura met them at a small community center near the library. She was a woman in her 40s with warm eyes, dark curly hair pulled into a loose bun, and a calm presence that filled the room like soft light. Emma, she said, opening her arms. It's good to see you again. Emma hugged her. The first genuine, full hug she'd given someone outside her family in years. They sat together in a quiet room with soft chairs and low lighting. Laura spoke gently. Megan told me the basics, but I want to hear from you at your own pace. Emma took a deep breath. And for the next hour, she told Laura everything. Not just what happened, but what she felt, what she feared, what she lost. Laura listened without judgment, without interruption, without disbelief. When Emma finished, breathless and trembling, Laura said only one thing. You've carried this alone for far too long. Emma's eyes filled with tears she had held back for days. You're safe now, Laura said. And we're going to rebuild the parts of you he tried to erase. Emma let the tears fall. For the first time, she cried not from fear, but from release. After the session, Emma felt lighter. Fragile, yes, but lighter. On the drive home, she stared out the window. The world looked different. The sky brighter. The streets wider. The air softer. She was ready to take back her life piece by piece. But she didn't know yet that the next piece would come with another shadow. Because waiting in the mailbox when they returned home was a letter with no return address. Emma's hands trembled as she tore it open. Inside, in jagged handwriting, was a single sentence. This isn't over. Emma's breath caught. Megan snatched the note, her eyes widening. What the, Emma, we have to call the police again. Her mother stepped forward, fury blazing in her eyes. Who sent this? Emma stared at the note. A familiar dread crawled up her spine. She whispered. It wasn't Nathan. Emma's breath turned sharp and shallow as she stared at the handwritten words on the torn piece of paper. This isn't over. The letters were jagged, uneven, almost carved into the page. Not the kind of handwriting she recognized. Not Nathan's. Not Greeley's. Something colder. Megan grabbed the page, reading it again, her voice sharp with anger. Who the hell does this now? Nathan's in jail. Greeley's in custody. Who else would even? Emma whispered. Someone who thinks he's defending Nathan. Her mother's voice trembled with controlled fury. Or someone who thinks he can scare you because Nathan couldn't. Emma felt her fingers trembling. Not with fear. At least not only fear, but with the feeling of something familiar rising inside her. Anger. The violation. The audacity. The reminder that danger could still slip through cracks she didn't see. Megan grabbed her keys. We're going to the station. Now. But Emma shook her head. No. We call them here. I'm not leaving the house again until we know who's watching. Her mother nodded firmly. She's right. Megan exhaled through her nose. Okay, then call Daniels. He'll take this seriously. Officer Daniels arrived 12 minutes later. Officer Kramer followed close behind. Both looked more tense than they had during any previous visit. Daniels took the note carefully from Megan's hand, slipping it into an evidence bag. Where was this? He asked. In the mailbox, Emma said. We just got home from counseling. Kramer examined the paper. This handwriting isn't the same as Greeley's, he said quietly. Emma swallowed. Then who? Daniels exhaled. We have a few possibilities. Could be someone else Nathan involved. Could be a copycat. Someone who heard about the arrest and thinks they're part of something. Could be a random. A random? Megan snapped. Someone just randomly threatens abused women? What kind of excuse? Daniels held up a calming hand. I'm not excusing anything. I'm telling you every possibility so we don't assume the wrong thing. Emma felt her pulse spike. Do you think Nathan told someone else to come after me? Daniels exchanged a look with Kramer. Finally, he said, we don't know yet. But it's possible. Emma closed her eyes as a wave of nausea rolled through her. Daniels continued, we're sending this to handwriting analysis, checking for prints, and canvassing your street again. But Emma. She looked up. This might not be connected to yesterday. Emma's voice cracked. That's supposed to make me feel better? Daniels hesitated. I'm telling you because I want you to stay vigilant. But I don't want you assuming this means immediate danger. Kramer stepped forward gently. We're increasing patrol frequency on your street again. You won't be alone. Emma nodded slowly. Also, Daniels added, we're going to pull the footage from the mailbox camera. Megan blinked. Mailbox camera. Daniels pointed outside. Your street's traffic camera points toward your house. It may have caught the person approaching. Relief and dread collided in Emma's stomach. How long until you know? She asked. We'll start reviewing it today, Daniels said. Megan crossed her arms. And what do we do while waiting? Daniels looked Emma in the eye. You live. You breathe. You don't let them win. Emma held that gaze for a long moment, then nodded. After the officers left, Emma sat by the dining room window, watching the quiet street outside. The sun was still high, but the shadows felt longer than usual. Megan moved through the kitchen angrily wiping down counters that were already clean. This is unbelievable, she muttered. How many people is Nathan connected to? How many creeps think they can get involved? Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. Sit, honey. You're pacing like a storm. No, Megan snapped, then softened immediately. I'm tired of people trying to hurt her. Emma ran her finger along the wood grain of the table. I'm tired too. Her mother sat beside her. You were brave today at the hearing. That kind of bravery has momentum. It doesn't disappear overnight. It feels like it did, Emma whispered. Like every time I take a step forward, something pushes me back. But you keep going, her mother said. That's what matters. Emma stared at her hands. I want to stop being afraid, she said quietly. I want one moment where he doesn't live in the back of my mind. Megan leaned forward. Then we'll get you that moment. Even if we have to tear this whole house apart to find whoever keeps doing this. Emma let out a shaky laugh. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. By evening, the air grew colder. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. Emma felt the change in the light like a shift in her own chest. Nights had always been Nathan's domain, where his temper sharpened, where his violence hid, where Emma learned to be silent. Now nights carried a different threat. Her mother made dinner, simple pasta with olive oil and herbs, but Emma barely ate. Megan pushed her vegetables around her plate, equally tense. Her mother tried to start conversation twice. Both attempts failed. The house felt too still. When Emma excused herself and walked to the living room, The cracked window reflected her shape back at her, distorted by the break in the glass. She touched it lightly. Once, the crack had symbolized the life she endured. Now, it symbolized something else. The break between who she was and who she was becoming. But even symbols had shadows. And tonight, the shadow grew when Emma noticed something on the porch. A shape. Small. Unmoving. Her stomach tightened. She took a step closer. Another. Careful. Slow. A package. Wrapped in brown paper. Tied with string. No note this time. No writing. Just a small, square package. "Megan," Emma whispered, her voice trembling. Megan rushed into the room. "What is it?" Emma pointed to the porch. "Look." Megan's breath caught. She jogged to the door, checking the locks, top, middle, bottom. "We're calling Daniels for this too." But Emma shook her head. "No," she said quietly. "I want to open it." "Emma. I need to know." Her mother appeared behind them, eyes wide. "Be careful." Emma reached for the doorknob, but Megan caught her hand. "Wait." She handed Emma a pair of gloves. "Put these on. No fingerprints." Emma did. She opened the door slowly. Cold air rushed in. She stepped onto the porch. The neighborhood was silent. Not a car. Not a voice. Not a sound. She reached down. The package was light. Too light. She carried it inside and set it on the table. The room fell silent. Emma untied the string. Her fingers trembled. She peeled back the paper layer by layer. And then froze. Inside was a single photograph. Printed. Glossy. Large. A picture of Emma. Taken yesterday. Outside the courthouse. Walking down the steps. Nathan in handcuffs in the background. Emma felt her blood run cold. Her mother gasped. Megan whispered, "Oh my God." But Emma only stared. Because at the bottom corner of the photograph, written in tiny, almost childlike handwriting, were 2 words. "I see you." Emma's heart pounded so loud she could barely hear her own breath. Her vision blurred at the edges. Someone was watching her. Not Nathan. Not Greeley. Someone else. Someone who was close enough to stand outside the courthouse. Close enough to take this picture. Close enough to find her house. Close enough to leave threats without being seen. Megan grabbed her phone. "I'm calling the police. Now." But Emma whispered something first, her voice barely audible. It wasn't Nathan. It wasn't Greeley. She lifted her eyes, pale and frightened and full of dawning clarity. "It's someone else." Outside, somewhere in the darkness, someone watched. Someone patient. Someone silent. Someone with a plan that hadn't yet revealed itself. And Emma, for the first time, realized the real threat was still out there. And he was getting closer. The photograph lay on the table like a piece of a nightmare. Emma's face froze in mid-step, sunlight hitting her hair, courthouse steps behind her, Megan's hand reaching toward her. And behind them, blurred but unmistakable, was Nathan in his shackles. But none of that was the part that made her blood run cold. It was the handwriting. 2 small words. "I see you." Megan didn't waste a second. She was on the phone with Officer Daniels, practically shouting into the receiver. "Yes, right now?" "Yes, a new package." "No, not from Nathan, unless he's learned how to walk outside a jail cell." Emma didn't move. She sat in a chair, hands flat on her thighs, staring at the photo as though trying to read a hidden meaning in it. Her mother knelt beside her. "Emma," she whispered, "breathe." Emma inhaled, but her lungs felt tight, strained. "Someone was there," she whispered. "Someone was close. Close enough to follow us." Megan hung up the phone and threw her hands up. "They're coming," she said. "They'll be here in 5 minutes." Emma still didn't move. Her voice was distant, pulled from a place buried deep inside. "It's not random." Megan sat across from her. "What makes you say that?" Emma turned the photograph slowly. "Because the handwriting is deliberate. Careful. Like someone who practiced." Her mother frowned. "You think this person has been planning?" Emma nodded faintly. This doesn't feel impulsive. Not like Greeley. This feels calculated. The room fell silent. Not even a clock ticked. When Daniels and Kramer arrived, both officers wore expressions Emma hadn't seen before. Frustration, concern, and a sharp alertness. Kramer moved to the table immediately. "Nobody touched the package except Emma?" he asked. "She wore gloves," Megan said. "We learned from the last one." Daniels picked up the photograph with the edge of a pen, examining the glossy surface under the kitchen light. "This angle," he murmured. "Whoever took this was close. Probably 30, maybe 40 feet away." Emma's stomach twisted. Megan crossed her arms. "So while we were focused on Nathan being hauled into custody, somebody else was watching us?" Daniels nodded slowly. "It's possible." Emma swallowed. "But who?" Daniels frowned. "We don't know. But I'll tell you what this isn't. This isn't amateur. This is someone who knows how to stay hidden." Emma's mother pressed a hand to her chest. "So Emma has another stalker? Is that what you're saying?" Kramer responded gently. "We're not jumping to that conclusion. But we are treating this as a credible threat." Emma's voice broke. "Why is this happening? Why do these people care?" Daniels met her eyes. "Because you stood up to someone who never expected resistance. And men like that often attract other broken men willing to defend them." Emma felt a cold shiver crawl up her spine. Daniels continued, "I'm going to station an unmarked car outside your house tonight. And tomorrow, we'll begin surveillance on the street." "Might not stop him," Megan said bitterly. "No," Daniels replied. "But it'll slow him down. And give us a chance to catch him." Emma glanced out the window, searching the empty street, scanning the shadows between houses. Her voice trembled. He could be anywhere. Daniels stepped closer. "Emma, listen to me. You are not alone. You're protected. The more he acts, the more evidence we have. He's making mistakes. And that's how we'll find him." Emma nodded, even though her chest felt tight. Megan added, "And you've got us. Don't forget that." Emma's mother squeezed her hand. "We're not going anywhere." For the first time since seeing the photograph, Emma felt the pressure loosen slightly. Just slightly. Enough to breathe. After the officers left, Diane called. "Megan told me what happened," she said, her voice heavy. "Emma, this is serious. Whoever is doing this wants you rattled." Emma held the phone tightly. "It's working." "I know," Diane said. "But we're not going to let him win. And this new development may help us." Emma frowned. "Help us?" "Yes," Diane said. "If this person is tied to Nathan in any way, even loosely, it could show a pattern of intimidation and stalking surrounding him. It strengthens your case, and it adds charges to Nathan's record." Emma felt a bitter laugh rise. "So someone threatening me is useful?" "In a legal sense," Diane said softly, "yes. But that doesn't make it okay." Emma's throat tightened. "How long does this trial process take?" "A few months," Diane answered. "We'll push for speed, but the system is slow." Emma closed her eyes. Months. She had to deal with this for months. Diane continued. "But listen carefully. You've done everything right. Reporting. Staying with family. Cooperating. This person is escalating, which means he's getting sloppy. It won't be long." Emma thanked her and hung up. Megan sat beside her again. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," Emma whispered, "that I want this to end." Megan wrapped her arm around her. "It will end. It will." But Emma wasn't fully convinced. That night, Emma didn't go to her room. She stayed downstairs in the living room with the lights dimmed, the TV playing a calming documentary she didn't really hear. Her sketch sat on the table beside her. The drawn woman staring back, braided hair, determined eyes, standing tall against shadows. Emma touched the edge of the canvas. "You look stronger than I feel," she whispered. She picked up the pencil. And to her surprise, more lines came easily. More shading. More depth. She added texture to the hair. Sharpness to the jaw. strength to the shoulders. Slowly, the woman in the drawing became more real. More like Emma. Megan walked in halfway through, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. You couldn't sleep either? Emma took the mug. Not with someone watching us. Megan sat next to her. You're doing everything right. And you're not alone. Emma stared at the window. Do you think it's someone from Nathan's work? Maybe, Megan said. Construction crews are full of guys who think loyalty means hurting people. Or someone who knew him a long time ago? Could be. Or someone who just wants to scare me? Emma whispered. That's also possible, Megan said. There are sick people out there. Emma gripped the mug tighter. Megan continued softly. But if he wants to scare you, that means he's scared of you. Emma blinked. Why would he be scared of me? Because you're not controlled, Megan said. Because you're fighting back. Because you're taking your life away from a man who thought he owned it. Emma stared at her sketch again. Maybe Megan was right. Maybe this wasn't about power over her. Maybe this was about fear in them. That thought steadied her. Just slightly. Morning came with a chill that seeped through the windows. Emma's mother was already awake, sipping tea at the counter. Any noise last night? Emma asked. No, her mother said. Quiet. Emma looked out the window. The street looked normal. Silent. Still. Too still. She grabbed her coat. I need air. Megan's head shot up. Not alone. I'll just be on the porch. Then I'll come with you. Emma nodded. They stepped outside together. The air was crisp. The sun was still low, its rays muted and gentle. But something was off. Emma felt it instantly. A feeling. A shift. A prickle along her spine. She scanned the street. Nothing. She looked toward the corner. Nothing. She looked at the neighbor's yard. Still nothing. Then Megan murmured, look." She pointed toward the edge of the yard. In the dew-covered grass was a footprint. Large. Deep. Fresh. Emma's heartbeat stopped. "It's from last night," Megan whispered. Emma felt the ground tilt beneath her. Someone had been standing in their yard. Watching. Waiting. Close enough to walk up to the porch. Close enough to leave a package. Close enough to see inside. Emma's breath shivered. Her voice came out tiny. "Megan." "Yeah." Emma swallowed, her throat dry as sand. "We have to figure out who he is." Because now the third man wasn't just a shadow. A threat. A distant possibility. He was real. He was close. He was watching. And Emma realized something with chilling clarity. This man wasn't like Nathan or Greeley. They wanted control. They wanted fear. They wanted obedience. But the man leaving the notes? The one sending photographs? The one standing in their yard in the dead of night? He wanted something else. Her. The footprint stayed in Emma's sight long after Megan rushed back inside to call Officer Daniels. Deep. Heavy. Pointing toward the house. Not away. Someone had walked toward her home. Toward her. Toward the front window where she had sat last night. Emma stood frozen on the porch, staring at the dewy grass. Her stomach twisted with an old fear, but now layered with something unfamiliar. A cold awareness. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. Megan returned, breath sharp with anger. "Daniels is already on his way. He said not to touch anything." Emma nodded without looking away from the footprint. Her mind was racing, thoughts colliding, blending, repeating. Why here? Why now? Why her? Megan stepped beside her. "We're going inside. Come on." Emma didn't move. "Emma," Megan said gently, "you're shaking." Emma finally exhaled. "I know." They stepped back inside just as Daniels pulled into the driveway. His expression was tight and controlled, but Emma could see the concern behind it. He walked directly to the footprint, crouched, and examined it carefully. "Looks recent," he said. "How recent?" Emma asked quietly. Daniels stood. "Sometime during the night. Between 2 and 5 a.m., based on the moisture in the grass." Emma's stomach dropped. That's when I thought I heard something. Daniel's eyes sharpened. You heard something? Emma nodded slowly. A scraping sound. Twice. And you thought it was an animal, her mother whispered behind her. Emma wrapped her arms around herself. I wanted it to be. Daniel snapped photos and radioed for backup. Soon, 2 more officers arrived to cordon off the area. They moved through the yard with careful steps, scanning for more evidence. Emma watched from inside the window. The officers' movements seemed slow, methodical, almost too quiet for the tension in her chest. Finally, Daniels approached the door again. Emma, he said gently, we found more. Her heart skipped. More footprints. He nodded. 3 more. Behind your house. 1 near the kitchen window. Emma's knees weakened. Her mother gripped her shoulders from behind. He was in our backyard. Daniels nodded. Yes. But the prints suggest he didn't try to break in. Why not? Megan demanded. Daniels exhaled. Because I think he didn't want to be caught. He wanted to watch. Emma felt a shiver travel through her bones. Watching was worse than breaking in. Watching meant patience. Watching meant planning. Watching meant obsession. Emma whispered, do you think he knows our schedule? Daniels hesitated. Possibly. Emma sank onto a chair. So he's been here before? Most likely, Daniels admitted. Her mother sat beside her. Sweetheart, we're adding cameras. Every corner of this house is getting protected today. Daniels nodded. That's my recommendation. Floodlights, motion sensors, everything. Megan grabbed a notepad, already making a list. I'll call installers now. Daniels added. We'll increase patrols further. And tonight, an unmarked car will remain parked outside all night. Emma nodded, though her throat felt tight. But, Daniels said gently, I need to ask you something difficult. Emma lifted her eyes. Think carefully, he said. Is there anyone else, anyone besides Nathan, who may have fixated on you? Someone from work? From your past? A neighbor? Anyone who ever made you uncomfortable? Emma's breath caught. Her mind immediately ran through faces. Co-workers. Old acquaintances. Random neighbors. Men she barely knew. Men she tried to avoid. Men who looked too long. Men who spoke too softly. Men who smiled in ways that didn't reach their eyes. Her pulse quickened. There was someone, she said softly. Megan turned sharply. Who? Emma swallowed hard. A man from my old job. Before Nathan and I moved here. Daniels leaned forward. Tell me everything. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, gathering memory from deep, dusty corners of her mind. His name was Kyle Mercer, she said. Megan frowned. Kyle? I've never heard that name. You wouldn't have, Emma whispered. It was years before Nathan. Daniels pulled out his notepad. What happened with him? Emma exhaled shakily. He used to come into the cafe where I worked. Coffee shop on Pine Avenue. At first, he was just a regular customer. Quiet. Polite. Her mother nodded gently. Go on, sweetie. Emma's voice dipped. But then he started lingering. Asking personal questions. Watching me even when he wasn't ordering. Daniel's pen paused. Did he ever threaten you? No, Emma said. Not directly. Did he follow you? Emma nodded. A few times. I'd take the trash out back and he'd just be there. Smoking. Waiting. He'd tell me he liked the way I smiled. He'd ask if I wanted a ride home. Her mother's face flushed with anger. Why didn't you tell us? I didn't think it was dangerous, Emma whispered. Just uncomfortable. Megan pressed her hand to her forehead. That was dangerous. Emma continued, voice trembling. And then one night, I left work late. My car wouldn't start. He pulled up in his truck, offered to give me a jump. I said no. He got angry. Not yelling, but scary angry. Daniels leaned in. How did it end? I ran inside. My manager threatened to call the police. Kyle drove off. Did you see him again? Daniels asked. Emma nodded slowly. About a week later. He came in early in the morning. He didn't order anything. He just stood at the counter and said, "You shouldn't act afraid of me. I'm not a bad guy." Megan shuddered. Emma continued, "I quit 2 weeks later. And not long after, I met Nathan. We moved. I never saw Kyle again. Until now." Daniels asked gently. Emma looked at the photograph again. Those 2 small words. "I see you." "It's possible," she whispered. Daniels considered this. "Do you know if Kyle ever knew where you lived back then?" "No," Emma said. "But he was observant. Too observant." "Did he know you moved?" Emma hesitated. "I have no idea." Daniels exchanged a look with Kramer. "We're going to look into him. Full background check. If he moved towns, if he has a record, if he has any connection to Nathan." "All the way to the end," Emma whispered. "Please." "We will," Daniels said. "I promise." The rest of the day moved slowly. Officers stayed outside. A security installer arrived to discuss cameras and motion lights. Paperwork piled on the kitchen counter. The tension in the house thickened like fog. Emma felt drained, emotionally hollow, physically tired. Her mother made soup for dinner, but Emma barely ate. Megan tried to distract her with movies, but Emma's eyes drifted toward the window every few minutes. Night fell like a weight. The unmarked patrol car parked across the street. Megan and her mother locked every door twice, checked every window, and turned on the new floodlights. Emma sat in her studio room, staring at her unfinished sketch. The figure she'd drawn, brave, unbroken, rising from shadow, stared back at her. Emma whispered, "How do I become her?" Her mother appeared in the doorway. "One hard day at a time." Emma turned. "I'm trying." Her mother cupped her cheek. "And you're succeeding." Emma's throat tightened. Hours passed. Megan fell asleep on the couch with the TV still playing. Her mother curled up in the guest room. Emma stayed awake, fighting the urge to peek out the window every few minutes. She finally drifted into a shallow sleep on the love seat. Until... knock. A single knock. Soft. Close. Emma sat up instantly. Her heartbeat slammed in her ears. Another knock. Gentle. Barely audible. She stood, legs trembling. She walked to the window. Nothing. She walked to the door. No sados. She leaned closer, her breath shallow. "Emma." She gasped. It was Megan. "It's okay," she whispered. "It's the police. They're knocking." Emma's knees nearly buckled with relief.
She opened the door. Daniels stood there, jaw tight. "We checked the street footage," he said. Emma's breath caught. "And?" Daniels held up a phone with a paused video frame. A figure. Dark hood. Back turned. Approaching Emma's mailbox. Emma swallowed. "Can you see his face?" Daniels shook his head. "No. But there's something you need to see." He pressed play. The man placed the package inside. Then he turned. Not fully. Just enough to reveal a sliver of his face. A profile. A jawline. A cheek. A forehead. Emma's blood froze. She knew that face. Older. Thinner. Hair shorter. But unmistakable. Her voice cracked. "Kyle." Daniels looked at her. "We already ran the frame through our database." Emma's fingers trembled. "What did you find?" Daniels exhaled slowly, too slowly. "Kyle Mercer was released from prison 3 months ago." Emma's heart slammed. "For what?" she whispered. Daniels met her eyes. "Stalking." Emma staggered back a step. "But that's not the worst part," Daniels added. Emma's breath hitched. "What could be worse?" Daniels' voice softened, but his expression hardened. "He listed you as his emergency contact." Emma's world tilted. Her knees felt weak. Her fingers trembled as she clutched the edge of the counter. She stared at the paused video on Officer Daniels' phone. The profile of Kyle Mercer, the man she thought she had left behind years ago, was unmistakable. He had been released 3 months ago. He had been free the entire time. And now, somehow, he had found her again. Her mother's voice came softly from behind her. "Emma, breathe." Emma exhaled shakily. "I don't understand." How did he know where I was? How did he find me? Daniels spoke calmly but firmly. He didn't need to know all the details. He watched patterns, noticed routines, and followed. Megan's hand tightened on Emma's shoulder. So he's been planning this. Exactly, Daniels said. And now we have evidence. The photos, the notes, the footprints, and the package. Everything points to him. Emma swallowed hard. What does he want? Daniels hesitated. Attention. Control. Fear. All the things Nathan failed to give him. He's obsessed with what he couldn't have. Emma's stomach twisted. I just wanted to move on. I know, Daniels said gently. And we're going to make sure you can. That afternoon, the house felt simultaneously smaller and infinitely vulnerable. Megan and Emma installed new locks on every door while Daniels helped supervise. The floodlights were set to motion sensors. Cameras were positioned to capture every corner of the property, inside and out. Emma moved mechanically, touching each lock, each camera, each new barrier. Every small piece of hardware became a symbol of control. Each screw tightened into place was a stitch in the armor she was finally allowed to wear. Her mother hovered nearby, soft and supportive. It's a fortress now, she said gently. And you get to decide who enters. Emma nodded. The word fortress resonated. She had survived Nathan. She had survived Greeley. She would survive Kyle. Somehow she knew it. Daniels left temporary instructions. If the person approached again, call immediately. Patrols would increase nightly. Even with these precautions, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Every creak of the house, every whisper of the wind, felt like Kyle's gaze. She realized that survival was no longer about hiding, it was about preparation. That night, Emma lit candles in the living room. Their warm glow softened the sharp edges of fear in the house. She picked up her sketchbook again, pencils in hand, and began drawing. Her strokes were confident, deliberate, channeling the anxiety and fear into the curves and lines of the figure on the page. The woman she drew now was standing tall, fists clenched, ready to face the shadows. Strong, fearless, defiant. Emma didn't draw Kyle, Nathan, or Greeley. She drew herself, the version she was fighting to become. Megan peeked in. This one's powerful, she said softly. It looks like you. Emma didn't answer. She just kept drawing, her hands steady now, her mind focused. The next day, Daniels called with an update. We have Kyle's current address. We're going to serve him with a restraining order. He's under surveillance already. Emma's throat tightened. Will he know it's coming? Daniels shook his head. Not yet. We'll approach carefully. We want him to know consequences, but we don't want him to escalate. Emma nodded slowly. I don't want to see him. I know, Daniels said. But we're here. You won't be alone. Her mother squeezed her hand. You'll face this safely, Emma. You've survived everything else. Emma exhaled slowly. For the first time in hours, she felt a flicker of hope. Megan and Emma spent the evening talking strategy. They reviewed security measures, escape routes, and emergency contacts. Every corner of the house was scrutinized. Every potential threat mapped. Do you feel like yourself? Megan asked quietly as they sat together in the living room. Emma thought for a long moment. I feel determined, but also exhausted. And scared. That's okay, Megan said. You can be all three. You survived Nathan and Greeley. You can survive Kyle. Emma nodded. I just hope I can face him without freezing. You will, Megan said softly. You'll face him the way you've faced everything else, with strength. And you won't be alone. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. Fear is normal. Courage is choosing to act despite it. Emma stared at her hands. The tremor had subsided. The sketchbook beside her seemed to vibrate with quiet energy. The woman she had drawn was alive in her mind. 2 days later, Daniels arrived with uniformed officers, all prepared to serve Kyle Mercer with a restraining order. Emma's mother, Megan, and Diane accompanied her. Cameras captured every step. Emma's stomach twisted. She hadn't seen Kyle in over 5 years, yet the thought of standing face-to-face made her pulse hammer in her ears. They drove to his apartment complex. Daniels briefed her again, Stay in the car if necessary. Do not engage. Let the officers handle everything. Emma gripped the steering wheel. She wanted to be brave. She wanted to feel in control. But the tension inside her felt like a living thing, coiling tighter with each second. Kyle Mercer opened the door of his apartment reluctantly. His eyes widened slightly when he saw officers, but the smirk, cold, arrogant, and unreadable, didn't disappear. Emma Clarke, he said slowly, recognition clear in his tone. Emma's jaw tightened. Her hands gripped her sketchbook. She didn't speak. She didn't flinch. She just held her ground. Daniels read the restraining order aloud. No contact, no proximity to Emma or her residence, no stalking, no intimidation. Kyle's smirk faded into a scowl. You don't get it, he spat. I'm not done. I won't be. Daniels stepped forward. That's where you're wrong. The law protects her now. You'll face consequences if you violate this order. Kyle's glare swept over Emma like a warning, but she didn't budge. She met his eyes steadily. For the first time, she felt the raw power of her own strength, unshakable and calm. The officers stepped in, confirming the order, and Kyle was escorted to the patrol car for official processing. He struggled slightly, rage flashing in his eyes, but the legal shield around Emma held firm. As the car pulled away, Emma exhaled. She felt a weight lift, like she had been holding her breath for years. Megan grabbed her hand. You did it, she said softly. Emma nodded, eyes still fixed on the retreating car. We did it. Her mother hugged her. And now, finally, you can start building the life you deserve. Back at home, Emma finally felt the quiet she had longed for. The threats, the shadows, the stalkers, they were gone. The windows and cameras held firm. The locks clicked secure. Patrols continued, but for the first time, she felt like her home was truly hers. She sat at her kitchen table with her sketchbook, pencil in hand. The woman she had drawn, the brave, resilient figure, looked back at her. She drew longer, steadier strokes. She added light breaking through shadow, a symbol of the life she had reclaimed. Megan and her mother joined her, bringing tea and warmth. Emma didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence alone said everything: survival, strength, freedom. And as night fell, Emma finally slept in her own room without fear. The shadows no longer loomed. The threats no longer whispered. The walls of her house and her soul stood unbroken, fortified by courage, love, and determination. For the first time in years, Emma Clarke felt truly safe. And for the first time in years, she felt alive. Morning sunlight spilled across the kitchen, soft and golden. For the first time in years, Emma woke without dread curling around her ribs. The air smelled faintly of fresh coffee and baked bread, comforting, grounding. She sat up slowly, letting the warmth seep into her body, and felt a quiet strength settling in her chest. Megan had left a note on the fridge. Breakfast is ready, come sit. Emma smiled faintly, a small, genuine smile. It felt unfamiliar, almost fragile, but real. She had been taught to hide all her expressions, to suppress joy and fear of triggering anger. Now she could smile freely. The sound of her mother humming came from the living room. Emma breathed deeply and padded barefoot across the floor. She set her sketchbook on the kitchen counter, her pencil beside it, and ran her fingers over the lines of the woman she had drawn. Brave, upright, defiant. The figure had become more than a drawing. It was Emma herself, finally emerging. Megan poured 2 mugs of coffee. You slept well? She asked, her tone soft but teasing. Emma nodded. For the first time in a long time. She sipped the coffee, feeling its warmth steady her hands. I feel different. You're different, Megan said gently. You survived. You fought. And now you can start building the life he never wanted you to have. The day passed with a new kind of energy. Emma spent hours finishing her sketch, adding layers of light and shadow. Each stroke of pencil was deliberate, purposeful, a tangible expression of control over her own story. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, illuminating the drawing. The woman she had created was radiant, strong, and free, standing against shadows that could no longer reach her. Her mother brought tea and cookies while Megan reviewed papers for Emma's ongoing case. Emma watched her family move around her, small but deliberate acts of love and support. For years, she had been isolated, trapped under Nathan's rules. Now, the house was filled with laughter, movement, and warmth, her sanctuary rebuilt. Even the shadows on the walls felt different now. No longer threatening, they simply marked the passage of light. Later, a small envelope arrived in the mail. Emma opened it cautiously. Inside was a single card. No sender. No note. Just a simple message in flowing handwriting. "You're stronger than you know." Emma's chest tightened. For the first time in years, a message from the outside didn't bring fear or dread. It brought validation. She held the card to her heart and whispered, "Yes, I am." Megan leaned over her shoulder. "See? Even strangers know what we've always known. You survived, and now you're thriving." Emma smiled genuinely, her eyes glistening. It's strange to feel safe, to feel powerful, to feel alive. Her mother hugged her tightly. "You've earned it, sweetheart. Every moment of peace you feel is yours, not his." Weeks later, the trial began. Nathan's crimes were presented in full detail: the abuse, the threats, the coercion, and Kyle Mercer's involvement. Evidence was overwhelming. The courtroom echoed with the sound of truth, and Emma felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that the man who had sought to control her through fear would finally face accountability. The judge addressed the courtroom. "Given the evidence presented, Mr. Clarke is sentenced to significant jail time, with additional charges for intimidation and conspiracy. The protection order remains in effect indefinitely." Emma's hands shook slightly, but her eyes were steady. She met Megan's gaze. Her sister nodded, proud. Her mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Emma realized that the courtroom was no longer a place of fear for her, it was a place of closure. She stepped outside, breathing the crisp air, and felt the first true sense of freedom she had known in years. Back at home, Emma continued to reclaim her life piece by piece. She painted again, exploring the depths of her experiences through art. She met with Laura, her counselor, who helped her process not just the abuse, but the courage, resilience, and determination it took to survive. Every day, she took small steps, cooking meals for herself, walking the streets she had once feared, and even speaking up to friends and neighbors about her experiences to help others. Each action reinforced the strength she had rediscovered within herself. Emma also reconnected with hobbies and passions she had abandoned for fear of criticism or control. Each stroke of a brush, each page of a sketch, each song she hummed in the kitchen was a reclamation of identity that had been suppressed for years. One morning, Emma stood on her porch, breathing in the crisp air. The sun rose over the neighborhood, golden and brilliant. The streets were quiet, peaceful. No shadows lurked. No threats hovered. For the first time in years, her home felt like a sanctuary. Megan stepped beside her. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Emma nodded, letting the sunlight wash over her. "It's mine." Her mother joined them, smiling. "And it always was, even when you tried to take it." Emma closed her eyes for a moment and let herself feel the enormity of her journey. Fear, silence, and isolation had once defined her life. Now, courage, resilience, and freedom did. She had survived threats from Nathan, Greeley, and Kyle Mercer. She had faced her fears and refused to be broken. And through it all, she had discovered something far more powerful: her own voice, her own agency, her own unshakable self. That evening, Emma sat in her studio room with her completed painting before her. The woman in the artwork, the one she had begun drawing months ago, was no longer just a figure on paper. She was Emma, strong, upright, and luminous, standing boldly against darkness. Emma whispered softly to herself, almost as a vow, "I will never let anyone make me small again." Megan entered, carrying a tray of tea. She set it down and looked at the painting. "She looks amazing," she said. Emma smiled. "She is me." Her mother joined them, wrapping her arms around both daughters. "And the world better watch. Because she's unstoppable now." Emma leaned into the embrace, feeling warmth, love, and protection surround her. For the first time in her life, she didn't have to hide. She didn't have to fear. She didn't have to be silent. The silence that once had oppressed her was now hers to command. And she would use it to live fully, freely, and powerfully. Because Emma Clarke had survived. And Emma Clarke had finally claimed her life. Emma survived abuse, threats, and stalking, and she emerged stronger than ever. If this story inspired you, hit the like button, share it, and subscribe to The Spoken Pen for more shocking true stories of courage and survival. Remember, every story deserves to be heard.